Welcome to another episode of Raven Conversations. I'm Josie Madel, State Public Affairs Officer for the Washington National Guard. And today I'm joined by Major Paul Lucero. He is with the 262nd Cyber Operations Squadron in the Washington Air National Guard. Yep. And your brother, Chad Lucero, is a captain in the 122nd Theater Public Affairs Support Element in the Washington Army National Guard. As you see, they are two brothers. They both serve in the Washington National Guard, but two different organizations, one Army, one Air. And they're here to tell us about their unique Guard story and how they ended up going one Army, one Air. I think it's kind of a fascinating story already. So thanks for joining us, guys.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks for having us, sir.
Yeah. So Paul, we'll start with you.
Oh, man. Well, I wanted to start with Chad first because he was the one who was in the Guard first.
Chad.
So my story's not actually that unique, sir. Right out of high school, I did the ROTC scholarship, and I applied to UW. It was the best university in our area. That was a public university. I heard a lot of good things about the Army ROTC program. And of course, a year before, my brother did apply for the Air Force ROTC program there as well. And I tagged along when he did the college tour at UW, and I found it a great place to study and learn. And then I commissioned in 2012, and I've been with the Washington Army National Guard ever since.
Yeah.
I got to backtrack even that more, sir, because our dad retired out of right across the freeway over there at Fort Lewis. So our dad retired over there. We spent a good amount of our childhood over there around Lacey Olympia area, and especially Fort Lewis and McCord. So that was basically a big military exposure for us. And from that angle, especially our dad would take us out to the air shows and everything like that. And I was very fascinated with aviation and airplanes. So that led to my my application to the Air Force Academy in 2007. Went through the admissions process, went through District 9 with a representative,
It's not Larson. It's
No. From District 9 out of Port of Tacoma. He's still District 9 rep. Adam Smith. Yeah, Representative Adam Smith. Sorry, sir. Like he nominated me, so went through that. Went through the appointment process, and then went and graduated from there in 2011. Went to cyber school, and then funny thing is, my first assignment out of cyber school in Mississippi was Joint Base Lewis McCord out of McCord Field. So my career has been like not your typical like cyber officer route. So did a communication squadron out of McCord Field, and then I had this first exposure to like this new mission set that's happening around Air Force's cyber. And my commander was like, maybe you should go across the street to the 262 and see what they have over there, because that's where we think that you're going to be headed next in your career. It's like, okay, sir. So I spent one drill weekend and shadowed a few individuals in there. And it's like, okay, this is what Air Force's cyber is like. And then I got my assignment down to Joint Base San Antonio Lackland, and did an assignment there with the 834 Cyberspace Operations Squadron. They're mainly out of the Cyber Mission Forces. So U.S. Cybercom has, I don't know if you remember this from your conversation with General Jeffries. Mm-hmm. So there's Cyber Mission Forces. Yeah. There's different components. So this is one of the first AF cyber units that was stood up. So I did cyber protection teams for them. I did that mission set for 3.5 year and wanted to do a special duty out of that. And coming out from that, I got an assignment to teach Air Force ROTC at University of Washington in Seattle. So funny thing is, it's in that same building where Chad was at.
Clark Hall, that's where all the ROTC's there.
And it's pretty cool to see like members within our Washington National Guard who went through that same building. And and then while teaching over there, we got to meet Senior Master Sergeant Perez, and And especially as a recruiting officer in the Air Force ROTC detachment, it was about like making relationships within the big Air Force community as a whole. So it was a big total force initiative. So we worked with Air Force reservists, Air National Guard, Civil Air Patrol, even the regular Air Force active duty embedded within industry as well, because there's like a special assignments for those folks. So we had airmen embedded into like the UW Medical Center, Boeing, and Microsoft. They were active duty. They just happened to do that assignment with those within those realms. So, but it's funny, all of them reported into the Air Force ROTC detachment at UW as a way of like to do like administrative functions. So we had this big Air Force community that we all like gathered around each other. So that's how I met senior pres and guardsmen. And of course, in a conversation during a dining out at UW, Lieutenant Colonel Rule, which I think he was like my gateway. He basically like convinced my wife and I like about the opportunities that the Washington Air National Guard has. So we were sold on the idea of like doing like an AGR gig, and then knowing about the mission set that my career field has here in Washington. It's like, this is the best deal in the house.
Yeah.
Like, so what happened was an opening came up, and I applied during the pandemic, and then got into the unit. So, yeah, that's how I got into the Guard.
Yeah,
so.
and it's a fantastic unit. I mean, I think
a solid history. Yeah,
solid history. We've had a ton of great commanders that have come through there, so it's a great place to be. And now you're full time over at the 262.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And Chad, you're a part-time traditional guardsman.
Yep. Yes, sir. Yep.
So on the civilian side, what do you do?
So I'm a youth minister over at a small Catholic church. We're over in Yelm. What we do is most of our kids that are there, they go through the youth group. Their families are either from veterans or from active duty families. So we see a lot of soldiers and airmen that also go to our church. And it's nice to relate to them, since like my brother said, that we're also military brats, so to speak, because like, they've either haven't been around at the same area for like more than 3 years or so. And so they come over to the youth group, and then we teach them our faith. The cool part about being in the Guard, and of course my job at the youth ministry, is I'm given time whenever the Guard needs me. Like when we did the wildfires over, I believe it was 2015 and 2016, and then with COVID, there's that opportunity to expand what I do with whatever the Guard needed me to do, I guess, so to speak. So either that was over there over the wildfires as I forget what it was called, like when we're over there making the fire lines, and then the second opportunity I had was with the C2 that we had based in Yakima. But yeah, my priests have been really great with like allowing me to do what I need to do whenever the state needs me. So
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
That's fantastic. And now you came over 122, and I remember having a conversation with you about wanting to come over, and I thought you'd be a good fit, and it looks like it's already working out pretty well. And you'll go to public affairs school in the winter, I believe, right?
Yep. Yes, sir.
So, and you'll start your career field over there. So I always ask the question: when did you guys first learn about the Guard?
The Guard. So what's funny, they always had those soldier shows, over the active duty folks. They would come over. There'd be like some sort of weird rock concert. I know my dad likes to take us to all the events, MWR events for the families. So they had a soldier show over there, and then there were ads for the National Guard. I'm like, hey, what, is this something different than active duty Army, active duty Air Force? And then always passing by the buildings, or whenever we drove by I-5, we always knew where Camp Murray was. We always knew where the recruiting office was. I don't think we knew anyone that amongst our family friend circles that were in the Guard, but knowing where everything was, we saw like, hey, it's something to do that's in the hometown area, and it's local. We've been here for the longest time. So
yeah, Paul, it sounds like you kind of knew about the Guard from the 262 when you were on active duty.
It's funny because even at cyber school in Keesler Air Force Base, Mississippi, they had folks from the 262 and 143rd who were students over there, and it was like this mythical squadron out there in Washington that does ICS cybersecurity, and folks from Microsoft and all the industry goes and drills over there. It's like, oh, cool, that's pretty cool. But folks from back home doing cyber, so that was just like just something in the back of my mind. That was like, okay. Something that they did, but only to find out in that first assignment there at McCord that, okay, there's more to that was being unpacked at the 262. So
yeah. So I think probably the question array is, why one Army, one Air?
Well, like we said, our dad was in the Army, and then my brother had an interest in airplanes. I was like, I'll just stay with the family business, There are a bunch of family friends that we've had growing up. My dad had other Filipino soldiers that they would be our unofficial uncles and aunts. We would have parties with them. We'd get to know them, and they've said a lot about their careers as well. That were really fascinating to begin with.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, it goes back to like my original interest in aviation. It's because I was color deficient. I couldn't get a pilot slot out of the academy, so cyber chose me. So we had a good like 20%, like a good number of our classmates go down to cyber school together. So a lot of us like scattered into the winds after that once we went to school. So yeah. That was the motivation right there.
Yeah. So does it set up any kind of sibling rivalry between the two services? I mean, Army and Air are kind of in the same boat, right? It's not like the Navy and Army.
Well, when we do watch like the Army Air Force game, I guess it's just whoever's. Yeah, it's more Air Force actually, since I went with my parents to visit my brother for those parents' weekends, and we've watched Air Force football whenever we were there. Yeah. So it's all Air Force when it's that, but if it's Army Navy, definitely Army.
And I joined over to the UW team once I became an instructor over there. It's like been a full supporter of Huskies.
Yeah, I was going to say, both going to be excited about Husky football and the national titles.
Mm-hmm. That's a long time coming. When I was over there at UW, sir, it's kind of funny. Our fundraiser was selling programs for the football games. We were the year over there where there were no wins at all, and it was kind of bleak. But
that was a rough year.
Yeah. But they've come a long way. And then just to piggyback about first time I've heard about the Guard too, just like my brother was the Air National Guard recruiter over there. There was a representative from the Washington Army National Guard there. That was one of our cadre over there, and just talking to him also got us more exposure about the Guards. Like, hey, it's okay you didn't get picked up for active duty commission. There's tons of opportunity in the Guard. Yeah. And what's funny, I actually ran into him back in my last deployment. So he was there as well. So it's kind of cool.
I know in the Air Force it's different because a lot of the commissioning sources go Air Force Academy goes directly to the regular Air Force, and then Air Force ROTC is both regular Air Force and Air Force Reserve. It's the only through the OTS Officer Training Schools was both all components of the Air Force. So a lot of the recruiting for officers comes at the point of their commitment where there's that Palace Chase and Palace Front programs. So I was through the Palace Chase program where that happened. But that's where a lot of spreading the word amongst the community is, I think, a really important thing to know about the Guard. So
yeah. So I mean, for you, right? You've always been cyber since you got in, and did you ever imagine you would come back to this area to work full time in cyber?
I think it's always been kind of like a. I wouldn't have expected it, but I think it was both it's pretty cool that became a goal in that way, and how it happened to be that way. I think cyber ops is a capability that's a treasure here in the Washington Guard, and I think it's a treasure that Washington has this, and it's a way to showcase Washington to the rest of the country because of the unique technological heritage that we have here in the area, and to see that mixed in with the how Washington plays in the greater whole of national security is, I think, a very important part of what we have here. So
and then Chad, for you, I mean, you were at the 420th for a long time.
Yes, sir. Yep.
And you just recently moved over, and you're kind of showing on the other side, right? That careers don't end at captain. There's all these things you can do moving forward.
Absolutely, sir. Yeah. So I majored in biology in UW, and then that kind of got me going with big interest in the chemical core. And there are tons of different things I didn't know that the chemical core did in the Guard, besides the joke that active duty says that chemical officers always do the unit status report, which ironically I did do when we were on our deployment. But the biology side did get me going. The chemical school was great when I did it. And of course, when I went through the 420th, they had their mission set with the Homeland Response Force and the Seaburn Task Force over there. So
yeah. What kind of led you to want to move over to public affairs early and just be in the IO now too in the 56?
Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. So part of it was I've always had some interest in communications as well, like especially dealing with the parents over there at the church, done their bulletins in the church really often. I also managed their website to an extent. And then seeing how everything is produced and telling the story of the Guard is something that is valuable, and everyone that is part of the organization should be able to know their story. Especially our story is unique, and maybe there won't be one like it later down the road. But it's a privilege, sir, to be part of an organization that does this as their mission set.
No, you're absolutely right. And we were kind of chatting beforehand, and of course, my 22 years in the Guard, I've known fathers and sons, fathers and daughters, brothers and sisters, brothers and brothers. They all have a really unique story in some way, shape, or form. No story is the same in the Guard. I always like to ask, what kind of advice would you give to brothers that are interested in joining the service together, maybe?
I can start.
Okay, go ahead.
So, just follow individually what your interests are. I mean, don't discount any single any single kind of inkling or hunch about something. Try and explore what else you're good at as well, because there are different opportunities out there. So just don't limit it to say, hey, I'm done with this organization. There might be an adjacent job in the same unit. I've known people that have changed MOSs because there was a spot in the UMR. And they found actually a niche in there, and they became really happy with doing that sort of thing too as well. Yeah.
I got to tell you one thing, sir, is we're one giant community. It's literally, I think the beauty about the Guard is your neighbors, your friends, and your family are embedded and working with you and serving our country. For example, we have folks from our high school that are within our unit, right? Who graduated from our high school, who grew up in the same place. We just happen to have careers that, cross over and end up working with each other. So it's both funny and interesting at the same time, and really unique to what we have. So, and those same people have family members and friends too that support the organization and the mission. So
yeah, once again, kind of a unique thing about the Guard is you can grow up with people in the same hometown and probably serve with them in the same unit for 20 years, and then continue to serve with them. So.
Yes, sir. Yeah, it's funny. For example, even back in different assignments too. One of the last things I did in Air Force ROTC was I admitted General Welch's daughter into the program. So and then seeing working and working with him after that, it's it's just something to relate on, and to see her progress now. It's pretty amazing, and to see our my commander and officers who went through that same Clark Hall, there's a community and network around that. So
yeah, same thing as we were talking about with Central grads. We all know each other. We all kind of walk through the same doors together, and we all come up through the program together, and we find each other in the Guard in some way. So I love your story, and I appreciate you guys sharing it. Anything else you want to share before we wrap up?
No, I really appreciate the opportunity for letting us. I appreciate Chad for telling me about this, about this setup, this Raven Conversations, and I think it's really important to spread that story about the Guard and the people that serve in it. And thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll be rooting for the Huskies for the college football championship, no doubt.
Much like half the state, I imagine. The other half of the Cougs will be like, nope, can't root for him. So we appreciate you guys coming on. If you are interested in learning more about joining the Guard, both Air and Army, we can definitely put the information in the notes. If you have a comment, leave it in the comments. If you like the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more videos. Hey, thanks for joining us, guys. We appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thanks, sir.